And now we be Sharon. Sharon Osbourne. What is the drama? Yeah.
No. I'll tell you, we watched the first hour or so of that Questlove doc on Hulu about the concert, and yeah, it's pretty good.
I saw just a teeny bit of the beginning of it. That's what I saw.
Yeah, of course, you didn't want to watch it, did you? Why? I wonder why. What bothered you about that? Was there something different about that compared to Woodstock? What was it, Britt?
I'm having critical race music theory shoved down my throat, and I'm just not going to do that. I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah.
All right.
Of course, Al Sharpton found a way to horn his way into the show,
as he does with everything.
Which he wasn't there. He wasn't really there, but he talks about it as if he was.
Exactly.
But he really wasn't.
Hey, Republicans! Here, Curtis Mayfield. I don't know where.
All right. Hold on. Did you read the piece in the Washington Post about Tucker?
No, I haven't seen that. I was reading the excerpt from the book.
It's a big long piece. And
how great he is.
I'll tell you,
he's the master.
I've more respect for him now than I ever did before.
Sure. Our next president, Tucker Carlson. I don't understand why you can't deal with that.
Guess what? I'm going to have to go and change my ears here.
Over here,
I have what we call junk there.
Oh, well, that's a delightful thought. Junk.
When you charge something for 4 hours and there's no charge in it, is that a problem?
I would say that would be an issue. Again, not being a technical guy, and I'm just one of those boomers on the porch. So,
all right, now I can't hear you.
Weird. How did that happen? I'm gonna keep talking until you're able to hear me. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can do something here to make you hear me, to make you love me.
Okay.
You got it?
Yeah.
Perfecto.
I had to disconnect these pieces of shit. These little pieces of shit that masquerade as a.
Sure.
Let me just check to make sure that we'd be good. Yeah, we'd be good.
All right.
Welcome along to the Brad and Britt cast. We're glad you're with us this day. A lot of nothingness to take care of, a lot of really important things to take care of, and things that are probably beyond our ability to have answers to. And I really don't want to just repeat what I hear from other people or the conventional wisdom, or why didn't Joe Biden say the word filibuster yesterday? No. Okay. Let's just no. Okay. I'll give you a choice of 3 here, Britt.
Okay.
Get the feds out of my stash. Walking can be a riot, or it might not be a riot. Or flaked turkey for dinner. Flaked turkey for dinner.
Get out of my stash. I can't resist that one.
You want to get out of your stash here. All right.
Yeah.
This has been talked about forever. And these are the Democrats led by Chuck Schumer, but not all Democrats, saying already. Let's just stop with the federal rules about marijuana that don't match up with what the states have been doing and where the country has been going. So,
Sure.
federal legalization of marijuana, which would mean that there'd be no federal government knocking on your door saying you did something illegal when you might live in a state that has it legal, or just in general spending any time or any money attacking or going after or charging people in that area. Legalizing weed. And here are your sponsors: Senator Cory Booker from New Jersey, Senator Ron Wyden from Oregon. Federal penalties on cannabis would be removed. You would have your nonviolent federal cannabis-related criminal record expunged, and states would still be allowed to decide if or how they want to legalize the drug. Now, catch the wiggle there. Catch the interesting nod to states' rights. So if you want to be a fucked up state, okay, you can still play the game. But as for the federal government, we're getting out of the business. We're checking out. We're kind of done. We have 18 states that already have full legalization of marijuana. We're not in one of them.
No.
They're still fighting over medical marijuana in this fucking state.
No.
This piece of, God damn it. 37 permit medical marijuana. We're not one of those, right?
Which is also, like, I think, a pretty stupid wiggle, but fine. It's great. Either do it or don't. I mean, don't just say, hey, it's okay if you're super sick. You can have a joint, and you can do it, but not otherwise. If you're just walking around paying your taxes, trying to get the old lady to give you a Hummer on the weekend, no, sorry, we're not going to allow you to have legally have any marijuana. It's stupid. It's beyond stupid.
I'm looking at the Politico version of this story. Tell me if you've heard this sentence before in relation to anything ever. Ready?
Huh.
Public support, public opinion suggests there is widespread bipartisan support for liberalizing cannabis laws, but that shift hasn't translated to the Senate.
Why do you think that is?
And when we have some Democrats even who are squishy on this. Oh, why do you think that is, Britt? Because we have a fucking culture war in this country that never ends. It's still 1922. There's still reefer madness for people. Anytime someone gets in trouble with drugs, in any story, read any story about someone who dies, they'll go, well, you know, they started smoking marijuana when they were 13.
Drug.
It was a gateway drug.
It's a gateway drug.
And it's stuck, and it's still there.
Well, don't you think it's mostly
still there?
Don't you think it's mostly because, with the exception, I mean, I know you named one of them. The Senate is controlled by really old white people, mostly old white guys, right? And they're just not. I don't know. I'm just not ready. This pot thing. I think we need more information. And that to me is what's going on there. There's a generational thing. It's the old white guys. They don't want some old lady coming up to him at some campaign event and going, "You got my kid stoned." I mean, it's one of those situations, isn't it? Doesn't it have a lot to do with it?
Well, allowing for the fact that that's just ignorantly simplistic, it might be true.
Again,
but again, you have a lot of old white guys in the Senate who are four square behind legalization. Okay, so
just not enough.
It isn't right. And if you think for 1 second that the young punk Republican Trump wannabes who want to be president, your Josh Hawleys, your Marco Rubios, are four square behind federal legalization of marijuana, I don't know whether they are or not, but I'm just guessing that when you're pandering in those waters, that you wouldn't be for it. So I don't think it's specifically an age thing. I think it's
again, not to be cynical, but eventually the money gets too good. They're able to buy politicians with these companies that are into it, and because it is the future, it's going to be legalized. There will be a lot of money spent and collected on this stuff, and it will be a lot of tax dollars. So eventually, these people are going to be able to throw a lot of money into re-election campaigns.
Right, and Texas is about to turn blue, Britt. It's going to happen at any time. Eventually, the money's going to be too good.
It's not the same thing.
It's
not the same thing. You're talking about a group of whores. The United States Senate and the United States House of Representatives are whores, and they'll go where the money is, Brad. And the money is about to be here in this cannabis thing, which I know is so dangerous. And again, reefer madness, I'm playing the piano very fast and killing people. And no, eventually there's going to be enough money that those guys can be bought. That's always what happens every single time. Sorry for the cynicism. I don't mean to unmask this great mystery of our democracy, but eventually these guys, they need to raise money for re-election campaigns and political action committees. And guess who's going to have some cash? This new hit record that you guys are trying to stop. So that's how that works. I don't know about Texas turning blue and all this other stuff, although I haven't given up hope on that either.
I think you may have even overthought that. This just might be an idiotic partisan divide. Here we go. We have a couple of Democrats, like the senator from New Hampshire, Jean Shaheen, who have voiced opposition to legalizing marijuana, and no Republicans, though, have come out to replace.
The biggest stumbling block to all of this is that the states just have to figure out how much THC per 1,000 in your bloodstream makes you impaired. Once we go with a standard on that, then we're done. But that's the only real legitimate block to this whole thing.
Senator Mike Rounds of South Dakota, the 4 senators from North and South Dakota, no one knows who the fuck they are,
nor should they.
Who these people are,
but they wield incredible power.
And Steve Daines of Montana is another one.
Yeah.
Or as Trump would say, there's a butte. Remain opposed to federal legalization, but ready? Senator Kevin Kramer, another nobody from North Dakota, a senator, and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska have said they're open to discussing federal reform. Stop with that's right up there with I'm concerned. I'm really worried about what he said about that. No.
We're going to wring our hands for about another 10 years and then we'll look into it. Kick the can down the road.
Hey, you've been alive for 60, 70 years. You've made a decision already. Don't tell me you're goddamn.
Hasn't it been recorded that there was sort of a crass political calculation on LBJ's part that if the Democratic Party reached out to African Americans, that they would have that voting block for generations? Wasn't there sort of a thing about that? Why can't there be like everybody under the age of pick a number?
I got a timeout.
Oh boy,
I can't
wait for the history lesson on this. No, I think
Britt, the history lesson would simply be that you missed the boat there. Lyndon Johnson was not forced when he signed civil rights legislation, when he got behind it and dragged enough members of the Senate along with him.
Right.
It wasn't hang on, let me finish the sentence or I'm going to reach to the screen and choke you.
I'm not interrupting.
Well, yes, you were.
You're allowed to finish.
But wait, he wasn't thinking, wow, this is a great way to get black people to vote for Democrats. No, it was, remember what he said? He said, I'm going to lose white people forever. Okay. It wasn't an equal balance. There were a lot more white people to lose than there were ever black people to gain. It was
did that turn out to be true? Did he lose black people forever? Or did he lose white people forever? Because I don't think he did.
Yes.
I don't think he lost white
Yes,
people.
he did.
I think there's quite
the Democratic Party has spent every election, the majority of white votes overall goes to Republicans. It doesn't matter who it is. So he was right.
We have a fairly large voting block of white folks in the Democratic Party, and they happen to be, you know how that is. But the point would be, if you are a political party right now and you would like to set yourself up, because there are a lot of young people that would like to have marijuana legalized. It is a generational thing. And if you would like to capture those people and have them as your voters for a number of years, by God, you could do a lot worse than go ahead and standing up for this shit.
I think that is not 100% true. It's 1,000% true. Because the world is changing. And here, let's dig into this and I'll ask you if you think this is really true. There are more fucking Republican redneck marijuana smoking Trump flag flying hypocrites who would probably come out against federal legalization of marijuana, which really kind of doesn't really mean that much to most people every day. But they would, because the Democrats have come up with the idea, even though they consume it themselves.
Absolutely.
Even though their brother went to prison for it, right? They would still be against it because right now it's not what you're for. It's whatever the other guy is for, you got to be against.
Well, right.
That's the division of the country.
And you can't be seen as working with them. Let me just take a guy, for example, Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham has many constituents in places like Aiken, South Carolina, and Cheraw, South Carolina, and Liberty, South Carolina, and Anderson, South Carolina that go around. They smoke pot all the time. And it's not a huge secret. It's not it happens. He has a lot of constituents, and if he did it, they would not go. Obviously, they're okay with other lifestyle choices that he's made. I don't think this would disqualify him.
I'm just gonna hold the side of your chair when I say it. Maybe for a lot of these right-wing Republican marijuana smoking good old boys in Ford F-150s who wear Trump hats, for them, smoking dope it's not the new, but it is moonshine. Okay. Yeah. They prefer it being illegal at some level. It's kind of cooler that it's illegal. Once you can go buy it in every drugstore, who cares? It's not quite as exciting.
There is something to that. And there's always been, I think this is uniquely a Southern thing as well, is about how they would sneak alcohol. They were less open about drinking alcohol. And alcoholism was not talked about and stuff. And Daddy would, have some corn liquor that he would hide over in the closet and stuff like that. I think that is certainly a cultural thing. I don't know if that's unique to the South. I think other people in other areas did it, but it seemed like it happened more prevalently in the South, where you would, and that's why they kept those stupid blue laws and shit like that for all those years, right? And you would have to, I recall this during the blue law times when you could not buy any alcohol on Sunday. There was always some guy on some fucking road you could go down and you get some beer from the guy. There always was. My dad took me a couple of times, being the father of the year that he was. This happened, but it was that's part of the culture. And you're right. Once it's out in the open, the romance of it's gone. I don't know what to do. I'm not going to smoke it anymore, or whatever. I don't know, but it's very clear it's going to happen. You guys can put your feet in quicksand forever, or you can get with the program, because sooner rather than later, I think. 10 years seems like way too long. 7 years seems like way too long. It's going to happen. It's going to be legalized because there's just way too much writing on it. I think there's too much tax money involved. There's too much, manufacturing money involved, all of that stuff. Aren't the banks working with those guys now? They refused to at first. They're still not doing it. No,
you still can't. That's the point.
That's ridiculous.
I'm sure.
That's so stupid.
Wait, but you are you're really hitting on what might be the most important part of this, because once there's federal legalization, then of course you can't prevent the companies from doing normal business, right? Yeah. Because there's no hint of illegality to it. Right. Although I guess if a state still says it, but the point is, this is very similar to vaccine refusal by people who would say, if the FDA just gave it full approval, I'd take it. It's a bad analogy, but
yeah, suddenly they love the government. Suddenly they trust the government. If the FDA, which is a place that I've always loved, if they would just stamp it.
And I think this is true. If someone invented aspirin today, it would never get approved by the FDA. It would never get approved.
That is a very interesting thought.
Why? No, well, it's not a thought. It's a fact.
Yeah.
Why is there aspirin? Because aspirin's been around forever. And so no one is going to say, but there are side effects to it. And
what about all them people got them ulcers? What about that?
What about them? Yeah,
I do, before we go to flaked turkey for dinner, are you currently reading any of the passel of books that have come out, the Trump books that have come out? Are you currently reading or listening to any of them?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, I promise I won't.
I'll let you be. I'll let you be the guy.
No,
I have. I've had enough of that for a while.
Right.
I've had enough of it. I need a rest, certainly from spending
after you
inordinate amounts of time reading or listening to it.
After you watch an hour and a half of that asshole on Saturday night, I could see how you would need a big vacation.
We didn't watch the whole thing, Britt. Believe me, we didn't watch the whole thing.
So there's the Carol Leonig book, and I don't know who her writing partner is. I'm sorry. I talked to the Michael Wolff.
Wasn't it Phil Rudd?
That's the guy, yes. And their book is really...
He used to be with Hootie and the Blowfish, right?
So good. Yeah, he was very good. The Michael Wolff book people are talking about, there's a bunch of them. And the one that I'm listening to is the Michael Bender book, because I subscribe to Audible, which you can do at shop.bradandbritt.com. Hi. I won't go into any details about the thing, because these are things that you've heard, maybe you didn't remember, maybe it'll jog your memory. And there are some things that will make your jaw will drop. As I'm listening to this was the thought that I had. I went, what if Michael Bender or any of these other writers, what if they were pure fiction writers? And I know the stupid MAGA people think they are anyway, so F those guys. What if Michael Bender wrote a novel and it was this? It was his book about Donald Trump, and he submitted it to his publisher. There's no way that would get published. They would go, it's too outrageous. There's no, this character that you've written has no sympathy to him. He thinks he's funny. He's a sociopath.
But you're saying if there was no Donald Trump,
if there was, if you submitted as fiction and it never happened, and you would have to dream up the entire scenario of the last 5 or 6 years in American history. There's no publisher that would ever publish that as a book of fiction, and who would want to read it? I mean, it's so outrageous. It's so impossible to believe. The guy he's not even as sympathetic as Thanos. I mean, there's no way anybody would accept it, right?
Well, you're bringing up an idea that kind of explains a lot of what's going on. For instance, people who are completely addicted to stories of, the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
They take it really seriously, right? They really, really take it seriously.
Right. They get pissed off when one of the movies doesn't jive with stuff and things like that.
Exactly. Or if you were like a Lord of the Rings or Star Wars, whatever it is, you can become really enmeshed into those worlds.
Yeah.
And you almost pledge your very being to them. I mean, there are a lot of people, like I think Stephen Colbert, I think he said when he was a kid, he was into, I don't know what it was, Dungeons and Dragons or something. Weird shit like, right? Have you heard him talk about that?
I have, yeah.
He was really there. Of course, a lot of people never graduate from that. He obviously did. He got out, it didn't take over his life. But the story of Trump, the fictionalized reality of Trump has drawn in tens of millions of people. Right. They bought it. And it, by the way, it doesn't start with his presidency. It starts way back in the 70s when he was already out there lying about everything.
Right.
Lying about the number of floors in Trump Tower. It's the tallest building in it's 68 story, and it turned out it was only 58.
Hey, okay. But when 9/11 happened, I got the tallest building in Manhattan, right? Remember
exactly.
All that shit.
On it went. The bullshit was unending, and he built whatever business there is out of that. And then The Apprentice comes along and supercharges this, and all kinds of people are introduced to the myth, the mythology, the lie, the story, the fiction, whatever you want to call it, of Trump. And it moves further and further along the tracks to the point where you want to talk about believing your own bullshit, believing your own press. At that moment at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where he became the center of attention, doesn't matter whether it was good or bad, doesn't matter whether it was true or false, doesn't matter whether he won or lost that night. It doesn't matter. The president of the United States spent a couple of minutes doing material about Donald Trump, in addition to what Seth Meyers did. It doesn't matter. It happened. And at that moment, the turbocharged lying of Donald Trump as it related to Barack Obama's birthplace took off even further. And the next thing you know, he said, I can run. And okay, I'm on Fox and Friends every Monday. I'm on TV all the time. Yeah. And here we go. And so what I think you've managed to actually brilliantly put words to is that the fiction of the last 5 years would not be believed if it was fiction, if it was written as a future, here's what it may be like one day by a fiction writer years ago. But whoever, and I don't know who this guy was or this woman that came up with the truth is stranger than fiction cliche.
So
well, you can put that one to bed. That's not a cliche. It's not a cliche. That one's just flat out true. That's not one that gets disproved all the time.
I just remember
in this case, it did. So I'm with you.
Did you ever read this book, like The Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy Toole? And it's about this complete idiot, but at least you're kind of he succeeds despite himself in some cases. And at least you're kind of winking along with him and like everybody's in on the joke that he's a complete idiot. Like if you write this as a piece of fiction, this guy's oblivious to the fact that he's like a small dicked, no confidence having piece of garbage. And I don't know if it's because I don't know if the people buy into it because they want his life. They want to be fake rich. They want to have a hot daughter that they want to bang. They want to be able to trade wives in whatever they want to. I don't know what it is. I can't figure that part out.
Welcome to the club. You and millions of the rest of us.
Yeah.
You know what really was the attraction? I always like the description of Trump of being a poor person's version of what a rich guy is like. The gold-plated faucet in the bathroom. Wow. Lifestyles of the rich and famous. I'm Robin Leach.
Meanwhile, while he's got the gold-plated faucet, like the foundation's like caved in, termites are eating the entire thing. All that shit's happening. But it looks good. You've got an outward appearance of success, right?
Right. Well, and what I guess really vexes most of us is that the failures of Trump along the way were so outrageously, spectacularly horrendous that they should have ended his career over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I don't give quarter to the, well, that's what makes him even greater because he kept coming back. No. When you cost tens of thousands of people their life savings because they sank their money into the stock in your company when you owned casinos, or all those people that bought condos all over the world in buildings with your name on it because they saw the brochure and the videos that made it look like this is a great place, and it turns out that what they bought was a promise that was never fulfilled, and it's still just a concrete shell down in Panama somewhere or something like that. This should have been it. It should have been over. It should have ended, but it didn't. And that's not a testimony to his greatness. It's a testimony to he's a criminal.
Yeah.
And he's a criminal who kept coming back. I'm sure Al Capone had some bumps along the way. That doesn't make him great. That just makes him Al Capone.
Well, but then you would also have, I think, and it didn't happen to the extent it happened with Trump. Like these people, Al Capone, like, look, he opened up the soup and the bread lines. Look at him feeding people. He's such a wonderful guy.
Well,
why are you guys talking about?
You know what? Actually, I take it back. It's an insult to Al Capone, to compare him to Donald Trump.
Where is the life-ending syphilis when you need it? Where is it? Where are you, life-ending syphilis? The last thing I'll say about this is I was like, when in 2004, obviously, it was a contentious race between John Kerry and George W. Bush. George W. Bush running for re-election. There were a lot of emotions in America. I didn't vote for Bush, and then but then you would hear people, because I've talked about that miserable 2005 that he had with Terry Schiavo and just all the bullshit. It was terrible throughout the entire thing. Harriet Miers being nominated for the Supreme Court, the most qualified person ever. And you would get from these people who voted, you would get these people who were not like Bush supporters, but they voted for the guy because they didn't like Kerry or they just thought he was the best option. And they would go, this guy really sucks. And you would be like, yeah, I tried to tell you, yeah, he sucks. But then they would be like, no. He really sucks. I went, yeah, it's no. He really sucks. And you would just go back and forth. But with Trump, it was always like, shut the fuck up. He's great. You don't get it. He's killing it out there. That there was like none of those people. Well, I would say none, but there was a small amount of those people who would actually acknowledge, like, man, I can't believe I did that shit. I can't believe I voted for Donald Trump. Most of them were like, I'm all in. I'll go a second term. I'll go a third term. I'll go a fifth term, because they would always push that, right?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. So I'm looking at some of the highlights that they've gleaned from some of these books, and
Yeah.
I like the one where on election night, and this is from the I Alone Can Fix It book, which is from Carol Leonnig and Philip Rucker.
Yeah.
It was on election night, and we thought and we heard that this might happen as it got closer to the election, and it looked like Biden really was going to win this time. That it didn't matter what happened, that Trump was just going to come out there and say he won.
Right.
He won. So on election night, it's Rudy Giuliani who's the one who says, just go out there and fucking say we won all over the place. And apparently everyone else in the White House was saying, no, you can't do that.
Shut up, you drunk asshole. That's what they were saying.
But it was just Giuliani who thought this was a great strategy. Just go out and lie. Just go out and lie. And it turned out that, that certainly foreshadowed the next few months of what he would do.
He's in the account I read is he's in one area of the residence and Trump's over here. And Rudy's like, I got it. I got the plan. I have to talk to Donald immediately. And a swarm of people go, no. Just shut the fuck up.
He's like Kramer on Seinfeld. I got a plan.
I got a plan. I got to get to him. Somebody tell me. And there was like a swarm of people that surrounded him like, no. Shut the fuck up. Keep drinking. No. But then he was able to get the message. Just say we won. Say we won Michigan and Pennsylvania and Georgia and Arizona. Just say it. Just say it. And I think it's almost Shakespearean in that it was the Fox call of Arizona that pissed him off so much.
Oh, yeah. But by the way, I just got a text from Shakespeare. He says, don't lay that shit on me. Don't use that name in any kind of descriptive way. I can show you the tweet if you want to see it.
It's brilliant because Bill Hemmer's on the air. He goes, wait, what is that? Arizona's, are we calling Arizona? Immediately in the residence, he's like, get me Murdoch and Lachlan and James and Bill Shiner and he was screaming to get people on the phone immediately. Which again,
well, but the follow up after that is more sordid because they go and fire the people.
They did.
They fire the political director at Fox, Chris Steyerwalt, one of the few guys who played it down the middle and played fair with the facts, and they threw him on the shit pile. Telling the truth and imparting the information. Yeah.
They waited an appropriate amount of time and then they just packed his shit up, put it in a garbage bag and threw him out on Fifth Avenue. Right. It was like, we're going to wait a little while, but then all of a sudden, hey, guess what? You don't work here no more. Yeah. You want to go on to Flake turkey for dinner.
Yeah. Jeff Flake, ambassador to Turkey, named by Joe Biden.
Interesting.
I knew he was a rhino all along. He was always one of them, right? Isn't that what I'm sure that's what they're probably saying.
I always like, especially with the Trump people, like anything you do to quote unquote own the libs is fine. I mean, if you chop off 3 of your fingers, but blood it's to own the libs, that's great. But if Joe Biden does something, which it picked the best guy for the job, and it's seen as a thumb to Donald Trump's eye, how dare he? Where is the bipartisanship?
But that is bipartisanship. He just named a lifelong Republican conservative, Jeff Flake.
So great.
Who I must tell you, I wasn't the biggest fan of that guy, but in the end, he did what we said we wanted more people to do. Him, Bob Corker of Tennessee, another senator who said, I'm done with this shit. There is no way.
I'm out.
I'm going to get primaried by these whack jobs, and I'm done, and I'm going to hold my head up high, and he has, and so has Flake. And I wonder how many funny memes they've done with his name, Flake, and turkey, and
so
things
funny.
So funny. But I got another one. This is today. This is right now. And a couple of states have passed these laws saying, for instance, if you run down a protester, if you just run down a protester who's blocking traffic or something, you're good. We're not going to prosecute you because they were
Um,
blocking traffic or doing something like that.
Somebody on this show who you're listening to right now has received a call from someone at a emergency communication center asking if they could run somebody over, wanting permission to run over a protester. That has happened.
Yeah.
For the record, I said no. I don't do that.
Right. And then some other states, some other localities have passed laws, anti-riot laws, that say if you block an entire highway, that you see that all the time, right? That you're subject to being arrested, and they can call it a riot.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, leading the way on that kind of legislation is, of course, Florida, which brings up this little nugget from the last few days. We have a whole lot of Cuban American demonstrators who shut down the Palmetto Expressway in Miami-Dade County. That's a big highway there.
They're happy.
And they are happy, and they are pumped up about what's going on with the quest for freedom by people in Cuba, trying to bring down the Cuban government, oppressive, regressive, horrible, shades of Castro. But for some reason, the anti-riot law is not being enforced this time around.
Yeah.
For some reason in Florida, if you're protesting and shutting down or celebrating and shutting down a major highway for the right reason, and we know what the right reason is in South Florida, we know what the right politics is in South Florida, we're not going to touch you. We're cool. Because of course it doesn't take Harvard Business School or Harvard School of Government to figure out that would Ron DeSantis have Cuban Americans arrested right now as they stand up with their relatives or friends back in Cuba to overthrow the Cuban government or get some modicum of decency and freedom, when, of course, the key to winning Florida in a presidential primary is to make sure you've got that Cuban vote locked. Of course, he's not going to do it. But what it tells you is the whole idea of the law itself was idiotic. And it also tells you that the very spirit of that law was political in nature, because really the law was designed to arrest marauding Negroes who might be in the streets, right?
Not old
protesting
white, but not old white-haired people who might be at Planned Parenthood on the weekend. I mean, it would be if somebody ran over those people, and I see them around. I mean,
right. And you don't want to make the case that you should be able to run over these people, but not those. But that sets that up.
It does.
This you want to talk about a bad law in search of a problem, and nobody's advocating blocking highways. And you and I'd be the first ones to scream bloody murder if you had to sit there for 4 hours in your car while people stood there on a highway. I mean, I get that, but these people are seeking human rights for people in Cuba. That's cool, and they have technically broken the law, but we're going to leave them alone because I'm Ron DeSantis and I paid for this commercial.
Well, the important thing is that you go on Fox and you shout, "Where's AOC? Where's Bernie Sanders? Why are they talking about this?" That's what you do. That's the game, right? That's the game that we're playing, correct?
That's part of that.
Because obviously their hearts are broken because the communist government of Cuba is dying. I mean, that's what the Fox Nation, which, by the way, if you ever pay for that thing, if I ever find anybody that pays for that thing, I can't be friends with you anymore. Holy shit, that's horrific. What was your?
I got to do a little reading out loud here. I don't do it all that often, but
okay.
This part. There's a big long piece today in the Post. It's titled "How Tucker Carlson Became the Voice of White Grievance."
That's fun.
And by the way, they capitalized the word white.
Right. They started doing that.
As you know, the word black is now officially supposed to be capitalized, but that never did happen with the word white as it relates to race. But the Post decided, since this is about Tucker Carlson, that they would capitalize the word white. And they go back to his original story here. It's just stunning, his origin story. And what makes it worthy here is that we know that Trump has lied about everything ever in his life. He's tried to cover up everything in his life. We've never seen his grades. No. We don't know how, right? None of that kind of stuff. So here it is. And he wrote this back in 2018. He put out a book. And by the way, as you know, prospective presidential candidates always put out books.
Sure they do.
But he's written other books too. But he says when he was 7, his mother had left the family. So his daddy raised him. His father was fairly wealthy. He was a Republican who worked in the Reagan administration. He oversaw the Voice of America. And then he married the woman who was the heir to the Swanson frozen food family. So his old man didn't come up with Swanson TV dinners. He married into the family that did Swanson TV dinners. And his childhood home, he overlooked the La Jolla Beach and Tennis Club. Hello. This is one of the most expensive places to live in the country. Ready for the lies? Here we go. He went to something called the La Jolla Country Day School, and a woman entered his life that he grew to detest. It was his first grade teacher. Quick, can you remember the name of your first grade teacher? Quick.
Sure.
Quick.
It's Mrs. Dillard. Sure.
Okay. He refers to her in the book as someone named Mrs. Raymond. He caricatured her as a parody of Earth Mother liberalism who wore long Indian print skirts. She had little interest in conventional academic topics like reading and penmanship. He's fucking 7, all right? And he's realizing this. He recalled her sobbing theatrically at her desk saying, "The world is so unfair. You don't know that yet, but you'll find out." Mm. He just wanted the liberals to stop blubbering and teach us to read. He's thinking this at age 7, okay? Mrs. Raymond never did teach us. My father had to hire a tutor to get me through phonics. Thus, Tucker says he started his sojourn as a conservative thinker at age 7, questioning the liberals who he said were all around him, exemplified by his first grade teacher. Well, guess what? The Post found Mariana Raymond. She is 77, and she remembers Tucker and said he was very precious, very polite, very sweet. And she had no idea until the Post tracked her down that Tucker Carlson, her former student, had ridiculed her as a key to understanding him. She said she never sobbed at her desk. She didn't wear an Indian skirt. She didn't advocate her political views. She said that not only did she teach Tucker reading, like he said she didn't, at La Jolla Country Day School, she was the tutor. She was the tutor that the family hired to teach him to read. Oh my God. That's the most embellished, crazy thing I ever heard when the Post told her what Carlson had. So there is not, the pattern is there. I know you're pretty high on the idea that he really may be the next one.
They're talking about him running. I mean, he doesn't do as well as he did a few months ago.
God almighty. But just think, what makes you think you have to make up something about yourself at that age to justify who you are now? I would much rather let you know that at age 7, I had no fucking idea what was going on. I mean, I can tell you, I was in 3rd grade when John F. Kennedy was shot. And I remember Mrs. Johnson, who was our 3rd grade teacher, came in and she told us in the afternoon. And you know what I remember after that? Nothing. I don't remember anything else. Now, maybe it's, and believe me, I didn't remember it, 30 years ago, and I forgot. I just don't remember that. I certainly don't remember the political angles that were flying apparently in elementary schools in Ohio in the 60s. I just don't remember that. But Tucker Carlson, he's got it down for when he was 7. This is such bullshit, and I think it's great. And I think that it's because he thought he could get away with it, just like Trump. He could make up a story that fit the template that he wanted to set for himself, for you in the future, that I've always been this way. And I discovered at a very young age that those people were out there trying to ruin us. And I overcame it. My dad got me a tutor. There was the goddamn teacher. He was trash. I'm sure he thought she was dead, right? And would never, he never in his wildest dreams thought that she would be able to be contacted to come back and refute the story.
Well, now you get to say it's the fake media and the fake news that have persuaded this woman to tell this lie. If you're Tucker Carlson, that's what you get to do now.
Yeah,
that's what you
right.
get to do. Well, I mean, the truth wasn't that.
You know, sickly. You're right, but no, we know the truth, right? Because there are no facts. There's just what I want to think about whatever is occurring at any given moment. That's my fact, and
that's
the
it.
hell with you. Yeah.
All right, guys.
Anything else?
That's all I got. That's all I got, and that's all. My tank is empty, pal.
That's what she said.
Hey,
yeah.
See you tomorrow to close out the week. Here we go.